What is up, you guys? We are back yet again with a great film today, and today's movie begins with a fight scene between Jung, a famous mercenary, and some futuristic four-legged robots in a civil war. Jung fights the robots off, and a bigger robot comes after her. Over her earpiece, her team contacts her from base and tells her that the battery is in the back side, and she tells her to shoot it there. She aims at it, and right before she shoots, she sees a little toy dangling from a distance, gets distracted, and gets her fingers shot off. Her eyes then change to robotic white eyes and she freezes. The place around her changes, and we see that she was in a simulation all along inside the Chronoid lab of combat AI studies. The laboratory team comes in with their leader Yun, and they discuss how Jung's been failing at the exact point in previous simulations as well. They put a cord port in her neck which reactivates her, and she walks out with them. They go through a manufacturing room where replicas of Jung are being made, and Jung goes into a control room where her body parts are taken off and she goes into some kind of sleep mode. Later we see Kim, director of Chronoid, looking over the catering prepared for the officials coming to see their progress with the replication studies. Kim is a bit of a joker, but he's determined to make Chronoid's version of an indestructible army of Jungs come to life. The officials come and Kim presents a video of the progress they've made with Jung, and from the video we find out that Jung was a human mercenary who died in a mission in the Adrian Republic Civil War. The researchers at the lab mapped Jung's brain and changed it into data so they can make an army combat AI from it. And we also learn that Yun, the team's leader, is Jung's daughter. Yun explains the simulations are necessary to isolate and extract the combat memory data from the brain mappings, but Jung hasn't been successful in finishing the simulations so far. Later, Kim tells her that the officials agreed to put Jung's army to battle if they can have her finishing the simulation successfully. Back in the control room, Yun goes to question Jung, and she's joined by a new lab operator, Min, that has just joined the team. They wake Jung up, and Jung panics and asks where her body is, as her brain still thinks that she's human. Jung then deactivates her and destroys her brain, since it cannot process the reality it is in now. While walking out, Yun asks Min why he joined, and he tells her that Jung was his hero. She tells him that Jung, her mother, only kept fighting because she needed money to pay for her hospital bills, as Yun was fighting cancer then, and Jung became a soldier to earn money. And the day of the mission that Jung died, it was the day that Yun went in for her surgery. On the train, she sees a mother and a daughter and recalls her last days with her mother. In a flashback, we see young Yun on her bed with a tube in her nose, saying goodbye to her mom Jung. Jung is dressed in her uniform and apologizes for not being there for the surgery, and she promises young Yun that she will see her afterwards. Jung then gives her what they call a lucky cheek rub, and Yun is wheeled into the operating room. In the next scene, Yun gets on a train to go through her ethics test, a mandatory test to determine humans from robots. She's asked various questions like if she's had pets or not, if she's ever written poetry, or if she's ever been attached to an object before. Afterwards, a doctor shows her an x-ray of her chest and tells her that the cancer has spread and it's too late to do surgery. He tells her that she only has 3 months to live, and he advises her to have her brain copied, just like her mother did, and have it transformed into a prosthetic body. There are 3 types of brain transfers. If she chooses type A, she will have equal human rights, and in type B, she would have no rights to marriage, adoption, and freedom of movement, and her brain data will be accessed by the government. But if she chooses type C, she will no longer be an individual, and many clones will be made from her brain data. She then asks him if she could see her mother's body, and he tells her that she can. When they were done with their conversation, the doctor's eyes go white and his body is retracted back, and we see that he's actually a robot doctor. Afterwards, we see Yun standing in front of her mother's preserved body, with wires on her head and her saggy skin in a glass container. On the next scene, we see a flashback of Yun after her mother's accident in battle, where her grandma signs the contract for the Type C transfer to have Young's brain data transferred and used by the government for cloning. At present day, we see a new brain being made for robot Jung for the next simulation. The brain is put in her robot body, and her body is assembled and she is put in the simulation room again. Kim suggests that they should do something different and has them shoot Jung's left leg before the simulation starts. They start the simulation and Jung is awoken, and they watch her pain level increase. She fights the robots off like she did before, but in her brain scan they see her will to fight going down. They thought she was already going to lose, but a different part of her brain starts to light up and she starts to fight again. But later, she gets hit in the head and dies. Kim is very excited by this new finding and tells them to color that brain area yellow to find out what it really was. The next day, they go to Chronoid headquarters to brief the chairman of Chronoid Laboratories, and they find the chairman won't be seeing them, but the new product development department head Lee will. Kim really doesn't like her, and most of all, doesn't really want to answer to her. And after the briefing, Kim is even more upset because Lee told them that they were downsizing weapons development. When they get back to their laboratories, they see the upgraded prototypes of Jung robots. Kim is told the chairman is waiting for him, and he takes Yun and the prototype to go see him. On their way there, he asks Yun if she's taken the ethics test, suspicious of her human nature. But ironically, when they walk into his office, he's frozen still and his eyes light up like a robot's. Yun looks around and she sees the chairman. Yun starts briefing the chairman about Jung's progress, but he tells her that they won't need it anymore. A treaty has apparently been signed by the Adrian Republic and the Allied forces. He tells her to switch to household and service AI, and although she asks him if she can finish their project, he tells her that it's a resounding no. He walks over to Kim and reveals that Kim was his first prototype when he got obsessed with brain replication. Although he had replicated his own brain onto Kim's, Kim didn't live up to his expectations, and none of the others will either. He touches a button on his cane, and Kim is activated again, and Yun leaves. In the next simulation, Robot Jung fails the same place she failed the first time. Kim gets very upset that they haven't been able to isolate or trigger the yellow part, and they wake her in the control room, and Kim tells them to cut her arm off. This is an attempt to try to replicate what happened before, and Kim then shoots her left leg, but it doesn't activate the yellow section. Yun tells him that she's deactivated Jung and that they won't go on with the project anymore, and he gets really upset and aims his gun at her, but fortunately, he's called to come to the headquarters by the chairman and he leaves. Yun tells the lab operators to leave and sends all the data they collected on Jung. While exporting the data, she sees an older Jung prototype data has been exported by Min. She goes to Min's office where she sees Jung dressed provocatively. She calls him a pervert, but he tells her orders had come from headquarters to try Jung for adult applications. He tells her that Jung is Type C and that they can use her for anything that they want to, so there's really nothing for Yun to be emotional about. Yun is very heartbroken, and she walks into the control room to find Kim devastated. He tells her the simulations will only be going until the next day, and Yun realizes that it's all over and walks over to the panel and wakes Jung up. She tells her that they rescued her from battle, but that she's going to die very soon, yet peacefully. And when she goes to shut her off for good, the yellow part starts showing in Jung's brain scan. Jung tells Yun that her daughter had surgery that morning and asks if she's alright. Yun gets emotional and tells her that her daughter is better. Jung, not knowing it was her daughter she was talking to, tells Yun her daughter had given her a doll, and she'd lost it in battle and had felt guilty about it. In the simulation she failed in, we see her being reminded of it when she sees another doll dangling and getting shot. Yun then shuts her down, crying. They take Jung to her final simulation, and Young dismisses the other operators and plugs Jung in. She deletes the yellow section from her brain and tells the unconscious Jung what was going to happen. Kim walks into the control room and they start the last simulation, and just as before, Jung gets shot at the same moment she always does. Min tells them that her brain responses aren't as strong as before, but Kim walks out, giving it no mind. And Yun leaves after him, and the other operators get Jung from the simulation room, and they walk her outside. Jung looks around suspiciously, and Kim realizes something and runs back to the control room. He has them replay the footage of the simulation, and he sees the shot missing Jung, yet she falls as if she was shot. He tells them to sound the alarm and he activates the other Jung prototypes. Yun goes into the main server and deletes all of Jung's data so that they won't use it anymore. In the meantime, Jung goes into a room full of her replicas wired to the ceiling, and she stands still amongst them to hide. The activated prototypes come in and see that she isn't wired, and they realize that it's her and attack. Jung fights them off, and she kills all but one. The last robot chokes her, but Yun comes in and deactivates the robot. More soldier robots get to Jung and Yun, and when they enter the room, they see Jung standing and they shoot her. Another Jung replica robot walks Yun out as if she's been hurt. The robots report Jung's been eliminated, but when they check her body, they see that they only shot a replica robot and not the real Jung. One of the soldier robots checks the security camera footage and sees that Yun switched Jung's brain to the replica's body when they walked out. Jung and Yun then get on a train only to find Kim waiting for them. When Jung tries to protect Yun, he tells her that he will kill her daughter. but Yun tells him that she's erased the data about her daughter so she could have a fresh start. Kim then shoots Yun in the stomach, and Jung shoots him in the face. He sees his robotic insides through his peeled skin and realizes, finally, that he's a robot. Jung and Kim start fighting, while more robots come after them on a different train and they start shooting at them. The two trains collide, and Kim tries to shoot Jung off of one. Yan then shoots her a weird hook and saves her, and Kim falls off with the wrecked train. Yan tells Jung to get away before the police come, and Jung asks her about what she said about her daughter, but Yun begs her to go. We hear sirens in the distance, and Jung gives her the cheek rub and runs off into the wilderness. And this is where our movie comes to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed this recap. Make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, and most of all, subscribe to my channel. I promise to see you guys on my next recap. Love you all. Bye.